Long before silk blue light filtered through the canopy, the rainforest stirred with whispers of the coming dawn. High among the soaring kapok and dipterocarp giants, mist curled around mossy limbs and fluttered like ghostly wings. Here, at the edge of two sprawling Gibbon territories, an ancient ritual was about to unfold, a delicate negotiation of borders, conducted through song and flight. Perched on a sturdy bough 30 meters above the forest floor, Patriarch Bolo surveyed his kingdom. His charcoal fur bore a sheen of dew, and the white ruff framing his face glowed like a silent coronet in the pre-dawn gloom. Around him, 18 of his clan, adults, adolescents, and downy gray juveniles, huddled in the bamboo thicket canopy, each heart thundering in anticipation. The boundary grove lay just across a vaulted gap, a tangle of lianas heavy with ripe figs, vines carpeted in orchids, and dangling masses of rattan fruit that both clans coveted. With a slow, deliberate inhale, Bolo commenced the first note of the territorial duet, a deep, resonant hoot that rolled through the branches like distant thunder. Instantly, his family answered in harmonious chorus, rich baritone calls layered over agile chirrups from the younger Gibbons, weaving a living tapestry of sound that pulsed through every leaf and vine. Each utterance carried a clear message. This is our realm, our table of fruit, our song in the dawn. Across the chasm, the rival Kadira family awakened. Matriarch Zara, her silvery coat glinting in the shifting light, tilted her head and listened intently. Beside her, her mate Quito flexed long arms as he prepared his response. When he opened his mouth, a plaintive rising trill spilled into the air, a melody both mournful and challenging, infused with the cadence of ages. His siblings and offspring joined, their voices dancing above the roar of distant waterfalls, seeding the canopy with their own claim. As the two choruses swelled, the Gibbons launched into the sky. Zara and Bolo led the first volley of loops and somersaults, flinging themselves from vine to branch in breathtaking arcs. Their families followed, younger members matching elder agility with playful flips and tail whips that sliced through the humid air. Each leap tested not only strength but trust. Trust in one another's grip, in the living vine's sway, and in the unspoken bond that song and flight could resolve conflict more elegantly than a clash of claws. Midway across the gap, Bolo and Zara locked eyes. Their duets collided in a climactic crescendo, a dazzling collision of bass and trill that sent ripples through the leaves. Then, as suddenly as it began, the music softened to a shared sigh. The families alighted among nearby fruit-heavy boughs, distances narrowed by respect rather than conquest. In the hushed aftermath, the rainforest held its breath. Two clans, once foes divided by liana-lined frontiers, had woven an accord through the purest languages they knew, the song of their throats and the poetry of their leaps. And as golden sunbeams finally crowned the canopy, the first chapter of this arboreal covenant was sealed, dawn's first accord in the Emerald Cathedral. As the newly risen sun spilled molten gold across the upper canopy, the Gibbon families moved together toward the fruit-bound frontier, a dense band of fig-laden vines and dangling rattan clusters that defined the contested border. Here, the sweet tang of ripening fruit hung heavy in the humid air, drawing both clans with equal lust. Bolo's clan advanced first, led by his eldest daughter, Miri, whose agile frame and daring spirit rivaled even her father's. In a series of fluid, whisper-quiet leaps, she threaded through the liana maze, her gray and black coat flashing like a living shadow against emerald leaves. Below her, juvenile gibbons followed in hesitant pursuit, learning to gauge each vine's elasticity and each branch's brittle hold. Zara's family waited on the opposite edge, knees bent in readiness. Her son Liko, equally lithe, mirrored Miri's path in reverse, his silvery fur glinting in the morning light. As Miri and Liko passed within arm's reach, their chirps and purrs wove together in a playful duet, a test of trust that belied the tension of territorial rivalry. Each call, Miri's crisp ascending whistles and Liko's mellow falling hums, was a subtle negotiation, an unspoken question of, can we share the feast? Behind the young duo, Bolo and Zara orchestrated the adult chorus. They formed a semicircle at prominent boughs overlooking the richest fig clusters. With synchronized flipper raises, they began a measured sequence of bass hoots and tenor trills. The orchestra's voice rose and fell like gentle waves. Each pulse reverberated through the vines, coaxing overripe fruit to drop in soft thumps. As the fruit fell, the families drew closer, allowing juveniles from each clan to slip among the branches and taste the bounty. Miri plucked a heavy fig and offered it to Liko, an act of trust that lit a spark of laughter among the hidden family members. Liko returned the gesture with a rattan pod split open in his teeth, the silky threads spilling onto Miri's palm. In that shared feast, the gravity of the dispute lightened. Bristling chests softened, and fierce stares gave way to curious eye-to-eye glances. Yet old rivalries could not dissolve in a single morning. As the last fruit was gathered, a sudden, distant roar, the cry of a marauding harpy eagle, echoed through the canopy. Instincts sharpened. Bolo's bulls issued low alarm hoots, and Zara's clan tensed for flight. In that moment of crisis, the two families merged seamlessly into a single protective ring. Adults interlocked arms overhead, creating a living net of fur and muscle, while the chicks nestled safely within. When the eagle's roar faded into the distance, the gibbons released their vigil with a unified chorus, a triumphant howl that blended Bolo's deep timbre with Zara's clarion call. Their combined voices soared above the canopy, affirming not only their individual claims, but a shared guardianship of the fruit-bound frontier. As midday sun filtered through leaf and vine, the two clans parted, not as defeated foes, but as co-custodians of the forest's sweetest bounty. Through duets of trust and leaps of daring, they had forged an alliance more enduring than any territorial decree. And as they cradled their chicks and bounded back to their respective domains, the rainforest itself seemed to hum with the promise of peace born from the dance of diplomacy. By mid-afternoon, the sun's overhead blaze filtered through the Emerald Cathedral in shifting beams, creating a lattice of light and shadow across the fabled sky bridge, a living arch of intertwining lianas, 100 meters above the forest floor. This natural span connected the heart trees of both families and served as the final proving ground for the evening's negotiations. Bolo and Zara faced one another at opposite ends of the sky bridge. Between them lay the slender vines, where a single misstep meant a heart-stopping drop. Around the perimeter, the assembled clans watched in tense hush. Subadults pressed their foreheads to bark, willing their leaders to prevail. Juveniles squeaked in excited fear, pressing close to their mother's fur. With a slow nod, Zara initiated the trial of leaps. She launched herself into the gap, arms outstretched, landing with feline grace on a narrow rope of vine only 2 finger widths thick. Guttural whoops of praise erupted from her clan as she turned confidently to face Bolo. The patriarch mirrored her maneuver, his powerful legs arcing him through the golden light before he landed in a crouched squat, gazing calmly back at Zara. One by one, adult challengers took their turns. Miri bounded in a rolling flip, her form a blur against the sky, while Liko performed an elegant somersault that drew awed gasps. Even the seasoned elders, once content to rule from stable limbs, demonstrated their prowess, sending applause rippling through both clans. Mid-span, Zara and Bolo met. With a synchronized leap, they joined hands above the sky bridge's highest point, their forms silhouetted against the sky. Their voices rose in a brief, harmonious duet, blending Zara's crystalline trill with Bolo's resonant hoot, cementing not only their own respect, but the unity of both families. As dusk's violet shadows crept across the canopy, the gibbons descended from the sky bridge at last. The trial of leaps concluded with no victor, only a shared understanding that boundaries drawn by daring flight and song were more precious and enduring than any territory marked by claws alone. In the soft hush that followed, The rainforest exhaled, a living witness to the power of trust woven in every leap and note. As the sky above the rainforest shifted from mauve to ink blue, lantern-like glow from bioluminescent fungi began to pepper the misty understory. High in the canopy, Bolo and Zara convened their clans beneath the sprawling boughs of the great fig, its broad, leathery leaves shielding them from drifting night rains, and its heavy branches laden with moon-silver fruit. Tonight, the two families would celebrate their new accord with a feast of shared bounty, an event as rare and sacred as the dawn's first accord itself. Bolo descended first, his powerful arms gripping thick vines as he navigated the half-light. Behind him, his bulls and subadults followed in silent procession, their footsteps muffled by damp moss carpeting the branches. Zara's clan arrived moments later, their silver-furred forms glinting in the fungus-lit gloom, juveniles clutching one another with wide, hopeful eyes. At the great fig's crown, the two leaders met on a broad limb, flippers touching in a respectful salute before they turned to their assembled followers. Zara raised her voice in a soft, rolling trill, the signal to begin. From every tree around the great fig, gibbons broke into coordinated leaps, gathering the ripest figs with astonishing precision. Miri and Liko, now allies as much as friends, darted between branches, plucking heavy fruit and passing them back in smooth arcs to waiting adults. Under the fungus glow, each fig's pale pulp gleamed like a jewel, and the air thrummed with the gentle hum of contented munching. As the first figs were cracked open, rich droplets of sweet juice dripped onto the leaf litter below. Younger gibbons pressed their beaks to the tender flesh, eyes fluttering shut in rapturous delight. The adults offered morsels to one another, Bolo feeding a succulent wedge to Zara, and she returning the gesture with a half-split fig for his clan's elders. Each exchange spoke of goodwill deeper than any territorial claim. Halfway through the feast, a sudden rustle of wings drew all eyes skyward. A pair of spectacled owls, drawn by the fig's scent, drifted down onto a nearby branch. Rather than issue alarm calls, Bolo and Zara signaled a hush, and the gibbons watched in respectful silence as the owls nibbled fallen fruit and preened in the soft glow. In that shared moment, predator and prey acknowledged the peace born of the feast of shared bounty. Night deepened, and the gibbons' feast shifted to song. Bolo's bulls launched into a muted bass hum, while Zara's subadults wove rising trills through the fig-heavy branches. Miri and Liko joined in with youthful peeps, their duet a mirror of their earlier Canopy courtship. The combined melody echoed through the ancient trees, weaving a living tapestry of harmony that bound both clans to the great fig's heart. As the final figs were consumed and the owls took flight toward the inky forest, Bolo and Zara rose for a concluding accord. Side by side, they raised a soft, twin-voiced call, a vow that this feast, this boundary marked by shared fruit and song, would endure through storms and seasons alike. Beneath the twilight canopy, the two gibbon families lingered in companionable hush, bellies full and hearts light. The feast of shared bounty had sealed their pact in sweetness and song, forging a legacy of cooperation high above the forest floor, a legacy that would guide every leap and duet in the Emerald Cathedral for generations to come. When the feast of shared bounty faded into the hush of late night, the rainforest canopy settled into a tranquil lull, broken only by distant calls of nightjars and the soft drip of dew from leaf to leaf. Yet Bolo and Zara knew that true harmony required vigilance. Under the silver glow of the full moon, the two patriarchs convened the Midnight Watch, a joint patrol of both clans tasked with safeguarding the newly negotiated frontier. From the Great Fig, Bolo led a silent column of bull and subadult gibbons along the lower branches, their powerful arms propelling them in shadow-soft leaps. Zara followed with her family's lithe forms, weaving overhead, their fur catching slanted moonbeams. At predetermined intervals, marked by ancient knots in the kapok bark, they paused, exchanging low murmurs in the secret gibbon tongue, reports of fallen fruit, signs of other wildlife, and the gentle reassurance that both clans remained alert. As they moved, juvenile gibbons from each family paired up, learning the routes together. Miri held the hand of young Tala, Zara's niece, as they navigated a series of narrow vines over a hidden stream. Their whispered giggles turned to gasps of delight as they spotted a family of tree frogs clinging to a glowing shelf lichen, their emerald bodies pulsing in time with the moon's reflection on the water below. Miri pointed, and Tala's eyes shone with wonder, proof that cooperation might reveal the forest's greatest secrets to those brave enough to look together. Further along, the midnight watch encountered a family of kinkajous slinking among the branches. Rather than sound an alarm, the gibbons observed in respectful stillness. Keto offered a soft trill, his voice a low, comforting hum, and the kinkajous paused to lick the fruit crust from their paws before slipping away into the night foliage. The watch moved on, understanding that unity meant sharing more than boundaries. It meant honoring every inhabitant's place under the canopy. By the time they reached the edge of the contested frontier, dawn's first pink tendrils touched the sky. Here, the patrol formed a living circle around a massive strangler fig, a new landmark of their accord. Bolo and Zara climbed to neighboring branches, flanking the trunk like twin sentinels, and sounded a final duet. A low, rolling baritone from Bolo met Zara's clear, resonant trill above. Their voices intertwined and echoed through the morning mists as a vow that together they would stand guard over the canopy, protect its treasures, and guide their young through every shadowed bough. As the sun finally broke free of the horizon, the midnight watch dispersed in pairs, gibbons bound for their respective sleeping hollows, hearts comforted by the certainty of unity. Though the forest returned to its diurnal rhythms, the legacy of that moonlit vigil endured in every whispered call and every daring leap, a testament to two families who chose collaboration over conquest in the emerald cathedral they both called home. Days passed in tranquil harmony until the sky above the emerald cathedral darkened with an unseasonal storm front. Low, roiling clouds encroached on the canopy, and the wind began to whip sap-slick leaves into flailing banners of green. Bolo sensed the shift first, his keen ears picking up distant thunder, not the steady roar of waterfalls, but the deeper rumble of a tropical squall marching toward their treetop realm. He signaled Zara with a solemn hoot, and their clans assembled beneath the massive buttress roots of a great kapok, its stilt-like pillars forming a natural shelter. Under this living pavilion, the gibbons huddled. Adults pressed together to shield the pups. Subadults gripped each other's flippers in solidarity, and the juveniles, Miri and Tala among them, clutched stray vines, eyes wide with apprehension. When the first sheets of rain began to lash the leaves, the gibbons rose into emergency formation. Bolo and Zara led joint patrols through the lower branches of the kapok, checking on vulnerable hollows and fallen fruit caches that young gibbons had stowed away. Each patrol mixed members of both families. Keto guided subadults to reinforce vines, weaving extra lianas into the thicket to form windbreaks, while Bolo's bulls tested branch stability, hammering their broad feet against rotted boughs to dislodge dangerous debris. Amid the driving rain, Miri and Tala discovered a hidden hollow beneath a tangle of stilt roots, where a clutch of fledgling hornbills, blown from their nest, huddled shivering. Without hesitation, Zara directed her brood and Bolo's juveniles to gather broad banana leaves and fern fronds. Together they crafted an impromptu canopy over the hollow, diverting the torrent away and giving shelter to the frightened birds. Miri chirped soothing trills as Tala pressed the young hornbills to her side, their tiny beaks opening in grateful chirps. As the storm intensified, the gibbons scaled higher into the kapok's cathedral branches, seeking stability in the thickest limbs. There, they formed a living lattice. Adults interlocked arms to create windproof walls, while subadults and pups nestled in the pockets of their collective embrace. Lightning flashed through the leaves, flickering silhouettes of gibbons against sheets of silver rain. When thunder cracked like a falling giant's gauntlet, the clusters tightened, but no guffaws of panic arose, only soft, synchronized hums of reassurance from Bolo and Zara. By midnight, the squall's fury had reached its peak. The kapok groaned as waterlogged vines sagged under the deluge. Yet the communal strength of two bonded families held firm. No branch snapped beneath their weight, no animal left to the storm's mercy. In the darkest hour, Aurelius's distant bass bray, a holdover from the ice-shattering chorus, rose above the gale, a summons for unseen allies of the Canopy to join the sanctuary. In response, tree frogs croaked their low-frequency croaks from hidden water pools, and orchids exhaled fragrant mists that cleaved moisture from the air. When dawn's pale light finally broke through the thinning clouds, the rainforest emerged glistening and renewed. The kapok's living sanctuary had withstood the tempest, its shared roots and intertwined limbs proof of deep cooperation. As droplets slid from emerald leaves, Zara led the families back toward the fruit-bound frontier, where the fig trees had shed their storm-softened bounty. Side by side, the two clans foraged anew, each shared fig a symbol of resilience, each duet in their calls a celebration of the sanctuary born from trust. In the hush after the storm, the rainforest itself seemed to hum with quiet admiration for the Gibbon family's trial by tempest, an enduring testament that true unity is forged not in the absence of challenge, but in the courage to face it together under the emerald boughs. In the weeks after the tempest's fury, Frostwind Shelf. Oops, wrong story. Let me refocus on our Gibbon families in the rainforest. As the emerald canopy glowed with new growth, Bolo and Zara convened beneath the great fig for one final ritual, the passing of the anthem. Here, at the heart of their shared territory, the patriarchs would teach their young the united melody and the map of leaps that ensured peace across the boughs. Dawn's light filtered through fresh leaves as the two clans gathered in concentric rings. At the very center sat the smallest Gibbon pups, eyes wide with wonder, flanked by juveniles who once navigated the fruit-bound frontier together. Surrounding them were subadults, their fur now streaked with maturity's silver, and the elders, whose fur bore ribbons of age and wisdom. Bolo opened with the opening refrain, a deep rolling hoot that echoed through vine and liana. Zara answered with her crystalline trill. Then, in unison, both families rose into the sky for the final trial of leaps, a synchronized series of arcs and swings that retraced the boundary's path, across the sky bridge, over the fig-heavy boughs, and through the hidden refuge beneath the kapok roots. Each leap marked a step in the Gibbon map, teaching the youngsters precisely where to call and where to rest if ever the borders blurred again. Back on the great fig's broad limb, the united chorus swelled, bass from Bolo's bulls, tenor from Zara's subadults, and sparkling peeps from the pups as they joined their elders. Miri and Tala, now leaders among the juveniles, wove a counterpoint duet that blended their voices in perfect harmony. Their song rose and fell like the rainforest's own heartbeat, carrying the promise that this territory, once divided, would remain one living tapestry of song and sanctuary. When the final note faded into the rustle of leaves, Bolo presented each young Gibbon with a living token of unity, a single fig from the feast of shared bounty, and a length of vine from the sky bridge, braided into a wristlet. Zara followed by placing a delicate orchid petal in their hands, symbols of trust, resilience, and the beauty born of cooperation. As the two families dispersed into their respective groves, the boundary between them glowed not as a line of division but as a seam of shared stewardship. High above, the great fig stood witness, its roots anchored in the same soil that nourished every leaf and liana. In every echoing call and every daring leap, the legacy of Bolo and Zara would endure, woven into the canopy's green cathedral and carried aloft by generations, who embraced the true harmony of territory, negotiated not by conflict, but by the music of mutual respect.